Precision piecing is really a challenge for a lot of us. It was my nemesis for years. That's why I did so much applique. It was just so much easier than doing piecing. There are some secrets to precision piecing, and one of the things that you have to do is challenge yourself to be precise when you're doing your piecing. And I'm going to give you some tips today. There are 4 keys to accurate piecing: good measuring, good cutting, good sewing, and good pressing. Let's first talk about measuring. When you start making your quilt, choose a ruler. Don't change rulers. Use the same ruler throughout, the same brand ruler throughout. Okay? Because otherwise you can end up with a minor variation that starts adding up across the face of your quilt. Know the measurement that you want to cut before you cut it. Use the lines on your ruler. Make sure that everything is lined up straight. Don't let your ruler strip. It's so often easy to let that ruler wobble just a little bit, and if you do that and you continue to do it, you're going to get some variations in your quilt and you won't end up with lines that line up anymore. Once you know that what you are measuring, then it's time to cut it. Make sure that you have got a fresh blade in your rotary cutter. There's nothing worse than cutting and having those threads pull and then your fabric gets out of whack again. If you're using scissors, make sure that your scissors are sharp. Once you've cut your pieces, it's time to sew them together, and I think that's where a lot of us fall down, is in the sewing. Make sure that you are sewing with an exact 1/4 inch. You can do that by using a 1/4 inch foot. You can use it by putting a piece of tape to indicate where your line is. There are a lot of ways that you can do it, but know what your 1/4 inch is. And one of the best ways to do it is to use a test. If you look down here, here's 3 1.5-inch strips. Take those, sew them together, okay? Press one way or the other, it doesn't matter. And then take your ruler and measure. And that should be an exact 3.5 inches. If it's not, analyze where you went wrong. Was it in the cutting? Was it in the pressing? Was it in the sewing? Did you get that good 1/4 inch or not? Once you figure it out and master it, then you can master precision piecing. That brings us to the final one, which is pressing. Make sure that when you press your folds flat, that you don't have tucks in there. That can cause a lot of difference, and it happens especially when you're doing something like a half square triangle. So be accurate in your pressing as well as your cutting, your measuring, and your sewing. I want to show you how to make this 4-inch star. It's a finished size, 4-inch sawtooth star. I use paper foundations, and we've already talked about how to do them. Let me just reiterate again how we do them. You start with your paper foundation. You put your 2 pieces of fabric right sides facing each other beneath it. You can pin them if you think it's going to slip off a bit. And then you're going to stitch along the stitch lines, and then you're going to cut along the cutting lines. When you do your stitching, here's a regular stitch length. It's way too big. What happens is you have to yank to get it off, and it pulls your thread out, and it may distort your fabric. This one is too small. You can see it starts falling off your paper before you've even finished sewing it, and you end up with something maybe that isn't in the right place. Here's one that's just right. You can tug gently, and it pulls off. So set your stitch lengths, 20 to 22 stitches per inch. So once you've got those stitches done, you're going to stitch along the lines. You're going to cut off the outside edge. You will cut first on the vertical and horizontal lines, then you'll cut on the diagonal lines. You'll end up with a bunch of squares that look like this. Cut off the triangle nibs on the edge. You're going to fold them open and press them. Remember, on pressing, press very carefully. You'll end up with your half square triangles, and you're going to go ahead and cut your other pieces for your sawtooth star. Then you're going to start sewing them together. What I want to point out on this, though, is the importance of thinking about your seam allowances. On this one, you see where these 2 half square triangles come together? I have pressed those seam allowances open on both sides, and that's because there's a big jam of seam allowances here, and I want to minimize the height so you don't end up with this volcano that you can't stitch through. Okay, so I press those open. These, I've done the same thing on the center. Pressed those open when I sewed the pairs of half square triangles together. The other thing, whenever you're stitching together intersections, you want to look at how they're going to come together. I want This seam allowance, normally you press toward the dark, but if it came this way, I've got two different pairs of seam allowances butting up against each other. I want them to be opposite so that when I put them together, you want them to be able to bump into each other and kiss. When you put them together like this, you want to ease them in together and pin them so that you get them sewn and they intersect appropriately. That's important with precision piecing. Let me show you what happens when you've got them all together like this. You see how this is now nice and smooth and even. A perfect sawtooth star. Next month we're going to talk about floaters. I love putting floaters in quilts. To me they're great ways to add an accent to a quilt. See you next month.